What if the biggest global tensions happening thousands of miles away were quietly shaping your everyday life in the United States? Not through dramatic headlines, but through the price of groceries, gas, housing, and even the stability of your job. And most people don't even realize how connected these events really are. Host introduction. Hi, welcome to Global Strategy Brief. Today we are exploring a question that sounds simple, but has surprisingly deep implications. Can global geopolitical tension actually affect everyday life inside the United States? At first glance, many people assume the answer is no. After all, most global tensions happen far away. Different continents, different political systems, different cultures. But the reality of the modern world is very different. Today's global economy is deeply interconnected. Energy markets, supply chains, financial systems, shipping routes, and diplomatic alliances all operate in a network that stretches across the entire planet. So, when tension rises in one region, the ripple effects can travel thousands of miles, sometimes reaching American households in ways that are subtle but powerful. In this video, we will break this down step by step. We will look at how global tensions start, why the United States is connected to so many regions, how international events influence the American economy, and why everyday consumers sometimes feel the impact first. By the end of this video, you may see global news headlines in a very different way. Because behind every geopolitical development, there are often quiet economic consequences that reach far beyond the original region. Let's begin with the bigger picture. Background context. To understand how global tension can influence life in the United States, we first need to understand how interconnected the modern world has become. A few decades ago, national economies were more isolated. Countries produced many of their own goods locally. Energy was often sourced domestically. Supply chains were shorter and simpler. But globalization changed that structure dramatically. Over the past 40 years, countries around the world became increasingly interconnected through trade agreements, technological advancement, and multinational corporations. Manufacturing moved across borders. Resources were traded internationally. Financial markets linked economies together. And global shipping networks expanded to connect continents. This created an incredibly efficient economic system. Products could be manufactured in one country, assembled in another, shipped through international ports, and sold to consumers across the globe. But this efficiency came with a trade-off. When systems become highly interconnected, they also become more sensitive to disruption. In other words, when one part of the global system experiences tension or instability, the effects can spread outward like ripples in water. This is why geopolitical developments in distant regions can influence markets, prices, and policies inside the United States. To understand how this works, we need to look at three major global systems: energy markets, global supply chains, international finance. These three systems are the foundation of modern economic stability. And they are also the areas most sensitive to geopolitical tension. The energy connection. Let's begin with energy. Energy is one of the most globally interconnected industries in the world. Oil, natural gas, and other energy resources are traded internationally every day. Even though the United States produces a large amount of its own energy, global energy prices are still influenced by international supply and demand. If supply uncertainty increases anywhere in the world, markets react quickly. Energy traders, governments, and corporations all begin adjusting expectations about future supply. When markets anticipate tighter supply or uncertainty, prices often move upward. This affects gasoline prices, transportation costs, manufacturing expenses, heating and electricity costs. And once energy prices change, the impact spreads across the entire economy. Think of how many parts of daily life depend on energy. Trucks transporting food to supermarkets, cargo ships delivering goods to ports, airplanes moving products and passengers across the country, factories producing everyday items. Energy is involved in nearly every step. So even a small increase in global energy uncertainty can gradually influence consumer prices in the United States. For many families, this becomes most noticeable at the gas station. When gasoline prices rise, people begin adjusting their spending in other areas. But energy prices can also influence something less obvious: Inflation. When energy costs increase, businesses often face higher operating expenses. And over time, some of those costs are passed on to consumers. This is one example of how international developments can slowly influence domestic economic conditions. But energy is only one piece of the puzzle. Another major factor is global supply chains. Global supply chains. Imagine ordering a product online. Maybe it's a smartphone accessory, a pair of shoes, or a kitchen appliance. That product might have components sourced from multiple countries, raw materials from one region, electronic components from another, assembly in a third country, shipping through international ports, finally reaching a distribution center in the United States before arriving at your doorstep. This complex network is known as a supply chain, and modern supply chains span across continents. Companies design these systems for efficiency. They locate factories where production costs are competitive. They move goods along optimized shipping routes. And they coordinate logistics across multiple countries. This allows businesses to keep prices relatively affordable for consumers. But global supply chains are also sensitive to disruption. When geopolitical tension increases in certain regions, companies sometimes face uncertainty about shipping routes, regulations, or access to resources. When uncertainty rises, businesses may need to adjust operations. They might reroute shipping paths, find alternative suppliers, increase inventory buffers, or move production to new locations. These adjustments can take time and money, and those costs sometimes appear in the final price consumers pay. So, again, an event happening thousands of miles away can eventually influence the cost of everyday products in the United States. But there is another system where global tension can have even faster effects. Financial markets. International finance. Financial markets respond to information almost instantly. Investors constantly analyze global developments to evaluate potential economic risk. When geopolitical tension increases in certain regions, investors sometimes shift their strategies. They may move capital toward assets they believe are more stable, or they may become more cautious about certain markets. These movements can influence stock markets, currency exchange rates, commodity prices, interest rate expectations. For the United States, financial market reactions can influence retirement accounts, investment portfolios, and borrowing costs. For example, uncertainty in global markets can sometimes lead to shifts in bond demand. That, in turn, can influence interest rates. Interest rates affect many areas of daily life: mortgage costs, car loans, business investment, credit card rates. So once again, an international development can indirectly influence domestic financial conditions. But here's an important point. Not every geopolitical tension creates major economic disruption. Many global events are absorbed into international systems. Markets adapt. Supply chains adjust. Diplomacy works to stabilize situations. However, when multiple tensions occur simultaneously, the ripple effects can become more noticeable. And this is where strategic analysis becomes important. Because geopolitical developments are rarely random. They often involve strategic interests, regional influence, and long-term national priorities. Transition to strategic analysis. So the key question becomes, why do geopolitical tensions emerge in the first place? And why do certain regions attract so much international attention? To answer that, we need to examine the strategic motivations behind global politics. In the next section, we will explore how countries evaluate strategic interests, regional stability, and diplomatic influence, and how those strategic calculations can sometimes shape global economic conditions. But before we continue, consider this question. When you hear about rising tension in a distant region on the news, do you usually think it could affect your everyday life? Or does it feel like something happening far away that has little connection to your daily routine? Because in the modern world, the distance between global events and personal economics may be much smaller than it appears.